Welcome to the Scholar's Chair. It was Ismail el-Farouqi who wrote, "The Ummah is a universal social order of Islam, whose membership include the widest possible variety of ethnicities, but whose commitment to Islam binds them to a special social order." Tonight, we shall discover the nature of the Ummah and the writings of Dr. Ismail el-Farouqi with Muslim scholars Dr. Imad-ad-Dean Ahmad and Dr. Safi Kaskas, right here in the Scholar's Chair. Welcome back to the Scholar's Chair, gentlemen, and it's good to have you here. We're doing part two of our interview now, and where we left off at the last program was just kind of defining what was ethnocentrism and how Islam has and its moral and ethical ideas seek to destroy the idea. I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about, eradicate the idea of ethnocentrism. Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about something more evolved?
Well, I think that is definitely a part of it. That's the part that I think is easiest for people to understand, even though they may not practice it, but they understand the theory. Where it becomes more sophisticated is that where I think Islam, while it is clearly against ethnocentrism, is also against using religious identity as a means of dividing people up. The Quran, goes back to what we were talking about earlier about what it means to be part of the Ummah. So you are closest, there's a special closeness you have with the other Muslims. But it's not a binary where that closeness means that you have to have distance, and love for your Muslim brother doesn't mean hatred for your Christian brother or your Jewish brother or your Hindu brother or your atheist brother. Now, the other thing that I wanted to bring into it, I don't know if this is if I'm sneaking it in here or not, but I did want to bring in this question about the difference between unity and uniformity.
Yes, please.
See, a lot of Muslims seem to think the ideal fantasy of a Muslim ummah is where absolutely everybody looks, thinks, acts the way they do.
Yes.
Well, that's not, and towards that end, they sacrifice the ideal of unity.
Yes.
Because that means when you do not look, think, feel, act the way I do, then I have to try to exclude you. It's no longer now just the exclusion of the non-Muslims, but the exclusion of the heretics, or the deviationists, or those of disguised unbelief, or whatever term you want to use to apply to them. And so uniformity is the enemy of unity. Diversity is the friend of unity. Because people can be diverse and yet commonly directed towards their common goal. And they can work together on, say, okay, you're a different race than I am, you're different ethnicity, different national origin, you subscribe to a different school of Islam. You pray, you break the fast several minutes after I do, but we are going to feed the poor and needy together. We are going to fight oppression together. We are going to educate people together. We can do all these things because we are part of the Ummah.
I like the idea very much, and I think that's an idea that's worth appreciating, particularly in this context, in the American context, because I feel that the idea of integrity of one's thinking and the quality of one's actions, it seems to me is the focus of what religion is all about, any religion. And I think that to do so in the context of a society or a community that voluntarily works at this it's a great idea. What do you think?
I'll take you into a different direction also, but to prove his point.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it from the Sunnah of the Prophet. In the Quran, Allah says that He will destroy Qura, Qarya. Qura in the Quran is defined not geographically, not a village, as it means in Arabic. Qura are specifically area settlements, human settlements, where people are from the same family, from the same color, from the same ideas, and reject any change. Because of that, God destroyed them. And the minute in the Quran you see one person coming with an opposite idea, the description stopped being Qarya into Medina. So in the story of Moses, for instance, people are saying something about him and they wanted to plot to kill him, and from the end of the Qarya came somebody, but immediately that guy became فأتى من أقصى المدينة, from the far part of Medina. At the beginning of the ayah it's a Qarya. Now it became a Medina because there is a difference in opinion. God in the Quran urges us to have diversity, does not like this uniformity. And Prophet Muhammad changed the name of Yathrib to Medina specifically because he put an end to the era of Qura, those tribes where everybody had the same ideas. When any new ideas that comes there is opposed because it's different from what we found our forefathers doing.
Right. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And to translate,
That's fascinating.
literally translate that, the similarity to the difference between provinciality and civility, right? The provinciality, the provinces we think of, we use the term to mean people of a provincial attitude, are the people who are not open to change, who are not open to different ideas, who identify strongly with the people who look like them. And the civility is that situation where you have a plurality of ideas.
Different
You have,
ideas.
Different, and a plurality of people.
Yes.
The cosmopolitan
Different races.
is the more civilized society.
Yes.
So and therefore it's very appropriate, as he said, that the Prophet should change the name of Yathrib to Medina.
This is not just because he accidentally wanted to change the name. He's putting an end to an era and starting a new era where Muslims should become civil. Do you know that constitution of Medina that I told you about?
Sure.
It doesn't say that Islam is the religion of the state. It doesn't even say the Quran is a major source for legislation. It's a totally civil state. Totally. And anybody can go up to the internet and check it out, look it up, the Constitution of Medina. It's available in all languages nowadays.
It's there as well, you can see it, and it's quite spelled out.
And the Quran says, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. If it wasn't for God pushing ideas of people against other ideas, the whole earth will be stale.
Now we're talking about diversity, and it is most certainly mentioned in the Quran. Diversity is important. There is an ending to the verses that say that God created the nations and the tribes, and I think at the near the end of it.
That's so important.
Very important.
Go explain, please.
To know one another.
Right, to know one another.
But it's important to understand this word arif is a different word from ilm or alim. It doesn't mean know in an intellectual sense. It means to be familiar with.
Yes.
Okay.
See? So it's a very warm.
Okay.
And what's important is the continuation of the verse after the word لِتَعَارَفُوا.
That's where I was going. Yes.
لِتَعَارَفُوا.
Yeah.
إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The closest to you, among you, to God is the one that mostly God conscious.
All right.
And in another verse, 5:48, it says, you're different, but try to compete in what is good.
Good.
This is where Dr. Farouqi missed a major point. A major point.
Yeah.
He tried to make the Ummah as the focus of all earth population, and everybody else is outside that Ummah. He is a wall builder in that sense. We like to be bridge builders.
I got you.
Yes.
Well said.
I mean, seriously.
Sure.
You know, for a simple reason. Islam, the definition of Muslim, according to the Quran, he mentioned it a few minutes ago. There is no deity worth of worship but God.
Yes.
No one worth of worship but God. And that God is our creator. Yes. Doesn't have to identify him with a specific name. He's our creator.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? Yes. That will make the majority of the people on earth Muslims.
Yes.
There's another point, if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
When the first Arabs, because in my translation I had to deal Imad-ad-Dean and Allah al-Islam. The only religion recognized by God is Islam. This is how it translated in 99% of the Quran translation. I didn't translate it this way. Because when the first Arab heard the word Islam, they didn't hear a noun that describing a group of people that have the same religion.
Right.
Actually, what they heard is submission to God. That's what Islam is. So to make it a noun will defeat the purpose that God meant when he meant it as a verb. A friend of mine who is not a Muslim, I was calling him to Islam. He said, Safi, every morning I try to be a Muslim. And by the end of the day, if I fail, I try the next morning. So it's not like an identity card you put in your pocket and now you're safe and you're, no.
It's more an adjective.
It is
an act of doing.
Yeah, it's a verb. Try
okay,
try to become submitter every day.
Yeah.
And try again if you make a mistake and you fail to be the first day.
Yes.
This is what Islam. This is the dynamic Islam that would rebuild this ummah.
Yes, yes. Well
into an active ummah. Right now it's a ummah in a coma. In order to take it out of the coma, we need to inject some new ideas there. The new ideas have nothing to do with aqidah. Our aqidah is the same.
Yeah.
What we need to do is our purpose on earth. Our purpose of life on earth is to do good. Is to be khulafa in reality. Khulafa means vice regent of God, trying to do God's work on earth, serving others, serving nature, trying to build resources for the future generation, not waste resources. This way, the term ummah become meaningful. Today, it has no meaning.
I think that your assessment is absolutely perfect. I can tell you that we struggle with this quite a bit in a lot of communities, and I think a lot of times we introduce people that come to the community with some ideas that are very, very foreign to the Quran, and they declare that they are coming to the community with with Islam. And
it's not just a problem by the way of Muslims.
Yeah.
Many people of whatever religious denomination view their religion as a kind of identity card,
right,
rather than a set of teachings of what is morally correct.
And they use it to separate themselves from others?
And use it to separate themselves from others. If you get engaged in interfaith dialogue and you talk to people not about what is your ritual or your history, geographical history, but what is it that your religion wants you to do? What is it your religion says is the best that you can do ethically?
Yes.
You find a lot of similarities. Yes. You find a lot of echoes.
Yes.
But most people don't want to look in that direction.
Well, I think that's right. I think that most religions want you to refine your ethical and moral life. And I think that that's what we're struggling to do as human beings. I agree with that completely. Faruqi talks about totalism. I know that neither one of you want to talk about this. But
no, we'll talk about it. We don't like the word.
Don't like the word. Why don't you like the word, Dr. Ahmad?
What he's trying to say, which we would agree with, I'll speak for myself, I would agree with, but I know from our discussion in the green room, Safi would too. What he's trying to say is that Islam is comprehensive.
That's all.
It relates to every aspect of life, which is clearly the case.
Yes, yes.
What does totalism mean? Well, the way he uses it, that's what he means, but it's a word he has
gather somewhere.
that is an obstacle to understanding rather than a facilitator.
Yes, I agree.
If I may add,
yes, please.
Faruqi, to be fair to him, he had at least two very impressive ideas there.
Okay.
The first one had to do with the purpose God created human being. Mm-hmm. He uses man a lot, but that was fashionable at that time. Now we say human being because women are definitely included. Mm-hmm. God created the human being with the freedom to choose. The only thing that distinguishes us from other creatures is our consciousness and ability to choose. It's a program that God supplies us with. Mm-hmm. So when he told Adam, go eat anywhere you want from that garden, but not this tree. Yes. Actually, it was any tree. It's not like in the Bible, a very special tree of life and an angel will garden it with all this. And all he wanted is to see if Adam is going to realize that his program allow him not to just do what God wants, but also to think about it and then choose. If he is able to choose, then he's ready to come down to earth, to live for a while, and exercise his freedom to choose.
Was his the freedom to obey?
No.
The freedom to choose obedience?
No.
Or disobedience.
Yeah.
Or disobedience.
Yeah. It's the freedom to choose.
I see.
I'll tell you that what choice we have on earth that God gave us. That's why he forgave Adam for not obeying him with that first. There is no original sin in Islam.
Right.
There is no original sin.
Right.
So when Adam realized he did not listen to God, and that was the first time ever he did not listen, he said, what's the consequences of this? He said, first lesson you learn is there is consequences to your choices. And the consequences to this is to ask for forgiveness, not go down to earth. Go down to earth is part of the plan. Ask for forgiveness is the consequences of disobeying. And of course, that was preceded when God brought all of us, the seeds of Adam, and asked us, am I not your Lord? And we all said, yes, you are. He said, well, we'll see if you're going to exercise that choice when you have the opportunity to exercise it. So when we came down to earth, some people will tell me, well, he didn't ask me. Yes, he did ask you. And he says this in the Quran. He did ask you. And he gave you all the weapons you need in order to make an informed choice, because he made Adam teachable, which is another, he gave him intellect so he can have ilm accumulated, Anyway, so Adam came down to earth. There are two choices only, all day long, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year.
Right.
Two choices. Every day. You go through, I go through, he go through.
Right.
Am I going to do this to please God or to please me, myself, my ego? Actually, Dr. Faruqi, see, I said all this to support that Dr. Faruqi had a brilliant idea here when he said, if God created Adam to obey God all the time, Adam wouldn't be the moral being that he is.
Yeah.
Because Adam can do the right thing or the opposite, when he chooses the right thing, he's doing what is moral. And that gives him superiority.
Tell me, how does it give the human being superiority?
See, look, there's no doubt that
because I'm about ready to get arrogant now.
There's no doubt that this is correct.
Right.
Because when God announces the creation of Adam, what is the reaction of the angels?
Yeah,
they say, are you going to create a creature who is going to shed blood and do mischief on the earth?
Yes.
To the angels, who have no freedom of choice, it's incomprehensible that God would create a being who may choose to disobey him. And the angels want to, and not only create this being, but make him his vicegerent on the earth.
Right.
So what is the point, the angels want to know? And
vicegerent, break the word down for us.
His agent, the one who's going to do God's work. In other words, when when people look around and they say, why doesn't God bring peace to the earth? The answer is, That's what he put you here for.
Exactly. Exactly.
You are not doing your job.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, but the angels don't understand that, and God says, "Well, I know what you do not know." And so he asks them, "What is the nature of things?" Now, the interesting thing about the fact that man is both rational and volitional is that these things have to go together. You see, without freedom of choice, you cannot independently acquire knowledge. So when God says to the angels, "Tell me the nature of things," they say, "Well, we only know what you tell us." And then he breathes his spirit into Adam, right?
Yes.
Which means that Adam has the ability of reasoning and choice. And he says to Adam, tell them the nature of things, which he proceeds to do.
Yes.
And then God says, "Did I not tell you that
I know what you don't know?"
And then he
Simple idea.
And then finally, to underscore the main point, he tells the angels to bow down to Adam. Why would the angels bow down to Adam? Because the creature who can choose to obey God is superior to the one that has to obey God. If that were not true, if the angels were superior to men, as some theologians claim, as Mark Twain said, God created man somewhere between the angels and the French. If the angels are superior to man because they can't disobey God, then so are planets that swim in their orbits or rocks that roll down hills, because they don't have any choice either.
Exactly. And they have a program. They are all programmed. You know? This is very important, that the program that God supplied us with allow us to do all this.
Yes.
You know?
So the program that we use in computers is a rational process.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the freedom of choice is based on data we are gathering, and then we understand it and analyze it our own way, and based on that, most of the time we make decisions. But all decisions, like I said, are between two decisions. Am I doing it to please God or to please my ego?
Yes. And I think, yes, Faruqi did kind of touched on this, but you both have evolved the idea much clearer, at least in my mind, on it. And this divine trust, tell us a little bit about that. Why would God give this trust to the human being? You explained a little bit of yes.
Well, again, as Safi mentioned, the Quran says that there was a kind of pre-existence where God offered all of creation the ability to have rational volition. And everything except humanity said, no, we don't want that responsibility.
Yes.
Only human beings, the Quran said, was arrogant. We're arrogant enough to say, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that's what we want. You give it to us. Which is why, people who complain, say, why did God give us the burden of free will, are being disingenuous. Because do any of them want to be literal slaves?
No,
they don't. So that the idea that in a pre-existence you were given the choice, even whether that literally happened or not, the fact is, if we're honest, given the choice, that's what we would have said, because that's what we'd say right now if we were pushed to it.
Yes, nobody wants to be a slave. So to be less of a slave, to use your rational choice, to use your mind, and to make quality choices makes you less of a slave.
Not only that, Faruqi said it beautifully. He said, unless you're free to decide,
you're not a moral being.
You're not a moral being.
It's absolutely
I can even say it further. All those that are not free are not responsible for their deeds.
Yes.
In order for the system that God created to work, we have to be free agents. We have to have a free will. Those that are enslaved will go to heaven, as far as I'm concerned, because they had no choice.
I don't know if that's true, but I can say that slavery is not something that any human being wants. And yes, I quite agree that the rational process is the way to free yourself from slavery. So if you're building a society, what is the educational system doing? Preparing us for professional jobs, or to teach us how to think rationally and make good quality decisions?
Well, the fundamental job of the educational system has to be to make people into thinkers, critical thinkers.
Yes.
The idea, and it's unfortunate that many pedagogical systems today, including most Muslim countries, all right, maybe all Muslim countries, maybe all countries actually, if you're going to be honest about it,
sure.
is to think that a memorization is the equivalent of education. That people are vessels into which you pour facts. And the more facts you can reel off, the more educated you are. This was always wrong, and it can't be more wrong in a time today when we can always rely on Sheikh Google to look stuff up for us. We have become susceptible to fake news because we've lost the critical ability to critically think. We cannot judge between what is true and what is false. It all looks the same to us. So we have to, go back to that ability to think. And of course, this is one of the main things the Quran asks people to do.
Yes.
When for example, when the prophets criticize their people for idolatry, they always say, "Why do you worship something that can neither
create anything,
give you help or harm?"
Yeah.
What?
Yes, I agree.
It just doesn't make any sense. And then it will ask the question, the rhetorical question: have they no sense?
Yes.
Have they no sense? So and the thing is that, of course, nowadays there are very few people, some maybe, but very few people who worship stone idols. But people worship all kinds of idols.
Mainly themselves.
Yeah, maybe money and so forth.
Some people worship strong men. Some people worship money,
that's
wealth.
right.
Some people worship their
Unbelievable.
sexual, whims.
Yes.
Why is there a Me Too movement? Except that there are so many people who feel that that their animal instincts should be unconstrained.
Yes, I concur. The identity of the individuals in the Ummah, would you consider them the community of rational thinkers, or would that be your definition, or is it a community of people who decide to submit to God? Which is the better?
A more comprehensive definition would be those who submit to God and are critical thinkers. If it was up to me, I always, in the mosques, delivering the Friday sermon, I always urge people not to encourage their children nowadays to memorize Quran. They should encourage them to understand one verse at a time. It's much more important for us right now to understand what the Quran says than to memorize it. My telephone can memorize the Quran much better than I can. What I need is people who can understand what the Quran is teaching. If we don't teach our children today, immediately, to start understanding what the Quran is saying, yet we are sending them to public school, to other schools here, where they are facing people who are not friends, really. We are sending them unprepared.
Unprepared. I quite agree. Professor, thank you so much for the Scholars Tour exchange. I got my 30 seconds, but it's been an excellent exchange. I am so happy.
Really short.
It's
not just moderns like us who say this. Al-Ghazali said that clear thinking for 1 hour is better than ritual worship for a year.
Amen.